So AF Post says WEF said there is, quote, no evidence of material wrongdoing by founder Klaus Schwab, acknowledging only minor irregularities tied to, quote, blurred lines between personal contributions and forum operations. Klaus stepped down after this, and he appointed Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, none other, as a co-chair. We also have Andre Hoffman of Rocha, I don't even know how to pronounce it, as they're interim co-chairs people. It's okay. They're just interim. They're not going to be there that long. Roche is a pharmaceutical company, if I recall. And BlackRock, everybody knows what BlackRock is. Investment firm. They own like everything. They have their tentacles in literally everything. They have over $10 trillion of assets under management. They're a monster. They're insane. So I made this slideshow. It's called the World Economic Forum, Our Present Circumstance. I'm going to outline a handful of key details about Klaus Schwab, about the World Economic Forum, and potentially what's going to be happening in the future, what I think might be happening. So a quick rundown of what is the World Economic Forum. Most people, we've heard of this. We kind of know some of the stuff, maybe some of you know. So the WEF was started by Klaus Schwab in 1971. It's headquartered in Lake Geneva in Switzerland, and its stated goal is for, quote, the World Economic Forum to engage political, business, academic, civil society, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. To shape them how, right? How are they going to shape them? What are they going to do with them? That's always what people want to know. That's the thing that really, I think, bothers people about this kind of stuff, these kind of multinational, globalist corporations, conglomerates, right? It's like why is our destiny being left into your hands? Why are you getting to decide this thing? So Klaus has been the chairman since its inception, but has recently given the reins to Larry Fink of BlackRock and Andre Hoffman of Roche Holdings. Now we got to go back a little bit. I want to go back a little bit to 1970 with, and I always cannot pronounce his name, Zbigniew Brzezinski. I'm going to call him Brzezinski. Brzezinski caught the eye of David Rockefeller, yes, that Rockefeller of the Rockefeller family, after he released his book Between Two Ages in 1970. It outlined the role of America in shaping the future technocracy. An excerpt from the book reads, more directly linked to the impact of technology, it involves a gradual appearance of a more controlled and directed society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite, the expert class, whose claim to political power would rest on allegedly superior scientific know-how. Absolutely. We talked previously about technocrats and how they're not really political animals. They don't have an ideology. They don't really care. They care about data. They care about efficiency. And basically, they care about power. That's really it. They're just power-hungry animals is what they are. Unhindered by the restraints of traditional liberal values, this elite would not hesitate to achieve its political ends by using the latest modern techniques for influencing public behavior and keeping society under close surveillance and control. Now, if you recall, Howard Scott in Technocratic Inc. in 1938, who kind of formulated the idea of technocracy originally, the beginning lines of the definition of what a technocracy is, the science of social engineering, the scientific operation of the entire mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population of the continent. So it's all focused on technology, basically socially engineering people to direct them to be more, well, we'll get into that, but to do what they want, to fall in line with their agenda, essentially. Now, Brzezinski's thesis, his book he came out with, Between Two Ages, he paved the way for the formation of the Trilateral Commission in 1973. Now, I'm not going to get too far into the Trilateral Commission. There's actually so freaking much about this institution that that's like a separate stream. Like, we're not going to go, this is just right now, World Economic Forum and Larry Fink. We're just going to go over that right now and kind of potentially the future of what's going to happen. The Trilateral Commission for another day. So the Trilateral Commission's goal was to, quote, foster a new economic order. Sounds like a new world order. Hello?
It is a big idea, a new world order.
By strengthening relations between the three most industrially advanced regions of the capitalist world, the United States, Japan, and Western Europe. By blurring the lines between public and private, they will use international banks and multinational corporations to achieve this. They want a total restructuring of society. And funnily enough, Brzezinski was a part of the Bilderberg Group. They formed this commission because the Bilderberg Group did not include Japan in their organization. Brzezinski further states in his book, quote, "The nation state as a fundamental unit of a man's organized life has ceased to be the principal creative force. International banks and multinational corporations are acting and planning in terms that are far in advance of the political concepts of the nation state." Again, we hear it repeated again. The technocrats do not care about politics. They do not care about religion. They do not care about ideology. They care about efficiency and data. Dataism, right? That's their god. Henry Kissinger, this piece of shit. Oh, Henry Kissinger, we meet again. My old foe. He's now dead, so we don't have to worry about him anymore, although there's a billion other. The Trilateral Commission had many prominent figures spawned from it. David Rockefeller, he was the founding chairman, along with Brzezinski, Bill and Hillary Clinton. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Antony Blinken, Jimmy Carter, and Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger is like the spookiest of spooks. Like, this guy has been around the block and back. He was a national security advisor from 69 to 75, Secretary of State from 73 to 77. He was the first chair of the 9/11 Commission, Bilderberg attendee, and Atlantic Council board member. And the funny thing is that Kissinger mentored Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab was a student at Harvard in the 60s, and he eventually went on to start the World Economic Forum, while Kissinger played a prominent role in the Trilateral Commission. So, On the Use of Land was a book released by the Rockefeller Brothers Fund in 1973 and led to massive changes in land use policy in the U.S. and paved way for the global land use policies that the UN would adopt in its Sustainable Development Doctrines in the 1990s. Now remember that, Sustainable Development Doctrines. That's Sustainable Development Goals. That's a big part of the WEF. Rockefellers took over the environmental movement to protect critical environmental and cultural areas, placing tough restrictions on the use of privately owned land policies that stem from this book include conservation easement, rezoning of urban, rural. That was a misspelling. Hey, I was doing this quick, okay? I had to get this out. All right? Jeez, get off my back. Rezoning of urban, rural land, splintering of property rights, eminent domain, environmental offense lawsuits. So basically, the Rockefellers took over the kind of hippie environmentalist movement, which was legitimate in its inception. And that's what you find out with a lot of these things. A lot of these movements, I think we're seeing that with the MAGA movement right now, is that it's a legitimate movement that has a organic force behind it, but then it gets co-opted by money, basically. People in positions of power with a lot of money, and they're kind of forced to, because like if you look at the MAGA movement, any kind of movement that wants to create waves in politics, or I mean really anything, tech, science, right? Anytime you do that, you're going to make enemies. And what are enemies going to do? They're going to try and, especially in the US, they're going to try and sue you. They're going to try and use lawfare to wipe out your resources. Well, then what do you want to do if you want to keep going forward? If you really believe in your movement, you're going to have to reach out to investors. You're going to have to reach out to Miriam Adelson, Bill Ackman, Peter Thiel, and the tech bros to fund your movement. And you make compromises. And that's what we're seeing with the Trump movement right now, is that there's a lot of compromises on Israel, on AI. Not good stuff. So all these policies, the environmental policies that were outlined in this book, they made it to the global stage at the UN conference in Brazil in 1992, where Agenda 21, you probably heard of it, was presented and sustainable development was introduced. Agenda 21 is an agenda for the 21st century, how they want to orient the world and how they want to restructure the world in the image that they desire. Now we get to present day. We have Larry Fink. He's the co-founder and CEO of the multinational investment management corporation BlackRock. And BlackRock has more than 10 trillion assets under management and are major shareholders in countless companies such as Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and Eli Lilly. I mean, that's basically across the spectrum. You tech, you got housing and pharmaceuticals, and then he's got even more than that. Those are just some of them. And a lot of times people go, well, they're not majority shareholders, but they hold a large, in some cases, it's a plurality. So even if they don't have a majority, they still absolutely have pulling power. They absolutely can dictate things that go on in these companies. Another thing too is that $10 trillion, there's only 2 countries that have a bigger GDP than that. It's China and the US. It's like crazy how powerful this corporation is. And it seems like this is the investment wing of the globalists, right? Of these people. This is their investment corporation. And there's probably others too out there. I think Vanguard might be another one, but there's other ones out there, but this one's like the one, right? This is like the globalist feudal company. They have their fingers and their tentacles in everything. I want to talk quickly about Ukraine. You have Larry Fink coming in to the WEF. He is now the co-chair. You have Ukraine, which has been at war with Russia since 2022, I think, and they're absolutely decimated. I mean, they're wiping them out completely. And in 2023, Ukraine's Ministry of Economy signed an agreement with BlackRock on providing support services to the Ukraine Development Fund. The main goal of this fund's creation is to attract private and public capital for implementing large-scale business projects in Ukraine. So it's an interesting connection you can make there, where it's like, okay, they're wiping out the population of Ukraine, and we're seeing this also in Palestine too. I think this is another form of it. But they're wiping out the population of Ukraine. They're destroying all their buildings and stuff. They're just flat and leveling it, right? In some sense, I think it is doing two things, right? I think it's sating Russia and Putin and their kind of security concerns that they had. But I think also BlackRock is going to be moving in after this is all over, after Trump signs a deal or whatever. COVID-19 was an event that the WF took advantage of in order to facilitate the quote unquote Great Reset. Everybody's heard of this. It's been talked about to death. It's to transform the prevailing economic structure into their vision of the future, sustainable development. And his goal is to address global crises and emphasize environmental stewardship, social well-being, and economic vitality. And all this stuff, it's like you hear about it and you're like, wow, this sounds really great. Yeah, I like environmental stewardship, social well-being, and economic vitality. But then you have to think about On the Use of Land, right? The book that they came out with that really outlined and proposed new ideas about how to acquire land, how the Rockefeller Foundation can acquire more land, how it can be funneled into the hands of the elite, not even the elite of the elite. And then you have to start putting together, well, Ukraine is a shit show and it's basically decimated. It's not even a country anymore, or at least the eastern part of it is. Then you see, BlackRock's going to be, they signed a deal with BlackRock. BlackRock's coming in. And BlackRock works for the WF, and WF emphasizes, and the original creator of the WEF was mentored by one of the most prominent figures, Henry Kissinger of the Trilateral Commission, which published that book. It's to take control over the lands. How can we circumvent laws to take control of lands and funnel them into the hands of the elite so then we can recreate them in the image that we see fit through sustainable development. No longer capitalism, no classes, none of that, no upward mobility at all. It's just the peons living there and the elite who run it, the expert class. Because you people can't take care of shit. You guys don't know how to do anything. I mean, geez Louise, look at the Great Depression, which is where technocracy and technocrats kind of began to formulate the idea originally, was because of the Great Depression, because they saw, the individual person doesn't know how to invest. They don't know about money and finance. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You got to put it in our hands, and we know what's best. You're placing the hands of the world and the globe into these people, the elite, Klaus Schwabs of the world, the BlackRocks of the world, and they're going to be dictating how we go about our lives. You are a consumer. You are a wasteful consumer. To them, you're nothing but a number, and we have a more efficient way for you to operate and act in life. We have the data on how you should be acting, how much money you should be apportioned, how much you should be traveling, how much carbon you should be using. That's a big one. The environmental concerns, carbon, guys. And one of their main points is that they want to raise the standards of a lot of these countries so they can stop polluting as much. But it's a trade-off, because they're going to be helping them out. This is like turbo globalism, right? They're going to be helping these people out in Africa, in South America, wherever, Asia. And in exchange, they get the infrastructure and the technocracy that these people have instituted. So they'll like it. They'll be like, oh, great, I love it. I love this. I get an apportioned amount of food every day. I get an apportioned amount of crypto every day. Right? I think that's another aspect to this too, is the crypto market. I think we're going to be trying to move on from the monetary system that we have into the crypto market, which I think will allow for a CBDC of some sort is going to come out. And it's going to allow for a better allocation of resources for people. This is the UBI. You're allotted 1,000 credits every month. Use them how you want. And there's not going to be any way for you to become one of these people. You're not going to be able to work your way up. It's going to be literally closed. The door is going to be shut from then on. And the top upper 1% of the 1% is going to rule everything. You're not going to be able to make any changes. Movements and things and political movements or ideological movements, religious movements, all this stuff is going to be consumed by this technocracy. It's going to be stifled because you're not going to be able to make your way up because they control the money, they control the food, they control the transportation, they control everything. And they have the technology to monitor everything you do. And if you do too much, if you don't say the right things, if you don't act accordingly to the system, we're going to shut off those luxuries. The system you are being trained to fit into the system. The system's not being made for you. Because ultimately, I don't think these people give a shit about humans. They see us, and I've said this before, they see us as any other widget out. They see us like a car or a dog. We're like humans are no different. There's a big emphasis, like I said, with sustainability on carbon emissions and environmental. You have to be an environmentalist. To me, all that it's another barrier to entry. It's another marker to say, are you on our team or are you against us? And if you don't comply in their SDG, their ESGs, if you don't comply with their standards, well, then they can pull the plug. If you're a new and upcoming business and you're like, we're not going to follow along with your goals, insurance providers can pull out. If you're renting you're renting from Berkshire Hathaway or something, or I don't even know, do they have, I guess they would have rentals, right? Or BlackRock has a large stake in the business you're renting from. Well, then they can pull the plug on you and say, well, we don't like that. You're not aligned with our goals. And it's going to make it incredibly difficult for people to get their businesses off the ground or to even stay afloat. Even if you do have a business, it's another marker to a barrier to entry to say you're gonna follow the avenue we want, and it's sustainability. And we need to clear out we need to get the clutter out of the way, get the people who aren't on board, and shave off the fat. And they're going to keep doing this with happenings. They're going to have wars. They're going to have pandemics. They're going to shave off the fat as much as they can, continue to funnel all the resources and assets to a handful of people so that they can employ I don't even want to, it's not socialist. It's like, it's beyond that. It is technocracy. It's its own thing. It's like a blend of socialist, fascist, futurist, like this blend, globalist. It's everything. It's all encompassing. They want this to be a global system, a new world order, really, is what they want. And every time we have a happening happen, they're using that to capitalize on it. The Great Reset, instantly, Klaus came out after COVID and said, we need the Great Reset. We need to really take a look at our system that we have in place. And that was a disaster. And we have a better solution for where we could go. Same thing they did after the Great Depression. Same thing that they did after 9/11. We know what we need to do here. We need more security. We need more safety. We need more technology. And I'm just waiting. I'm on the edge of my seat for the Trump administration for something to happen so we can push even further into AI dystopian shithole America. There's going to be something's going to break out. Something's going to happen during this administration that's going to cause them to say, we need AI, we need Palantir everywhere. It's already in our government, but there needs to be a directive to say, well, we need it. I think, honestly, they're trying to foster hatred and conflict in this country. Right, their racial lines, their religious lines, political lines, and they want people they would love for like a civil war to happen. Tim Pool, hey, it's a civil war, guys. Dude, there's a civil war. It's already started, guys. They would love for something major like that to happen so that they can crack the whip and say, okay, here we go. Nationwide AI governance. You guys don't know how to behave. And they're just waiting for something like that. And it's funny because Elon taking over X, it's like opening, it's free speech, guys. It's great. And really all it's doing is like, you see the vitriol and the nasty hatred that's just funneled to the top. Hundreds of thousands of comments and likes, and you'll see millions of impressions of just nasty shit, just hatred, like really. So much of it. And a lot of it seems super AstroTurf too. So it's like it seems like they want to direct us into conflict to get us on board with security and safety in the AI. Because these people are not religious, they don't believe in meaning. Christians believe that the divine mind, God, has imbued the world with meaning and imbued us with divinity, and that things have a proper place and a proper divine order to them. And we try to overlap our lives with that as much as possible. And that would give us the most, that will allow us to be living correctly. If you go and view things, if you view the transgender issue, that's just for example off the top of my head, you view something like that, you're like, no, there's actually a correct way to live. And everybody has problems, and you might have mental deficiencies, but that doesn't mean we should affirm transgenderism. Like something like that. It's just an example, and obviously it's deeper than that. But I'm saying that's like something where like Christians would be like, no, God has made you the way you are, and there needs to be an assertion of the way you are rather than a retreat into a different identity that through technology and science we're going to affirm. That's something, and I think that's paving the way for transhumanism. But that's something where like Christians would be like, no, that's not right. We think you should live according to the way God made you. But these people are totally on board with that. Like, yeah, if you want to, you can do it. You create the narrative in your own life. We don't have, there's no meaning. Man, woman, there's no meaning behind that. It's just like whatever. It's just arbitrary bullshit. You're all just atoms. You're all just atoms moving around in data. When they view the world like this, and they think we can create the world how we want to see it, well, we see it. We can create the narrative and the meaning around the world. We can do the social engineering and have you think the way we want you to think. Because there's no distinction. They don't believe in anything that's to say that's right and this is wrong. It's all just the way they want it. And it really boils down to power. Might is right.